But before you got married, though, and it goes to this question, our card game. Define sexual compatibility in a relationship. Like, were you guys sexually compatible before you got married and then things fell off? Or what happened? Because it had to be good at some point, unless you didn't engage in premarital sex and you waited till you got married, and that's a whole nother topic.
The way that head came out of that position,
I know.
That thing spoke volumes to me. Whenever she
do a whole, this is
Relationships matter. I need you to understand. Relationships matter.
Welcome to Relationships Matter. I'm Chanel Scott.
And I am Josh Powell.
And we have some amazing guests here. But before we get into it, guys, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Relationships Matter Live. All right, so let's get into these guests. We have Carl and Latanya Gilliard. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Nice to be
Yes,
here.
so, you know I'm a fan of family business.
I appreciate that.
Yes, and we know what happened to your role, and I'm certainly going to miss you. I'm sure you got something lined up. Got to.
I hope so.
Okay,
I mean, the water got to come down. The mortgage got to be paid.
Hey, you know that's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And Latanya, I hear you have a project with Coco Brown.
Yes. Hey, Auntie podcast.
Hey, Auntie. Yes, tell us a little bit about that.
It's just, well, if you know Coco, you know the hilarity ensues when people ask just regular, ordinary questions. But it's just the premise of when you can't go to your mom, you can't go to your dad, you can't go to everybody else, you can always go to your auntie.
She was a guest here a couple months back as well.
I
Absolutely.
was with her, yeah.
So you guys know we talk about relationships.
Sure we do.
So you have a podcast, right? I'm going to start light. We're going to get deep. So you have a podcast, Twice Married Brother.
Yes.
Right? Talk a little bit about that and the premise of it.
Well, actually, this is my third marriage.
Okay.
And Twice Married Brother was born during my second marriage when I was in a place of futility. I could not figure out what I could do to please this woman.
Wow.
So I came up with this idea, Twice Married Brother, that is primarily focused at, illuminating the voice of the man, what the man's point of view is, how we should look at things and how we do look at things and kind of strengthen that voice in relationships and in marriage in particular. So that's how it started.
Okay. Well, I recently saw a clip.
Ha! Yeah.
And there was a young lady who said that women use, like all women, she said all women use men.
Yes.
And you seem to agree with her.
Well, I think it's more of a matter of roles.
Okay.
I don't think that it's bad necessarily for a woman to use a man, because I think that men want to take care of, want to provide for, want to be the priest for, and protect women. And as you listen to that young lady, when she started itemizing the things that women use us for, they were all these same things that most men who are courageous, upstanding men seek to do anyway. So the key is, as a man, choose the women who bring you peace, bring you respect, respect and peace and respect. You choose the woman who's going to bring those things into your life and bring an added value. You were talking about adding value, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So bringing that to the relationship, we choose that. And then when a woman doesn't do that, that's not a good fit for us. And no matter how great she looks and how things feel with her, you need to let her go.
I just wanted to look for the record. I didn't like the terminology used.
Yes.
Because I always look for reciprocity in any relationship. How can I bring value? How, you want the other person to bring value, but I'm always looking for how can I serve or how can I add value to this situation? So just the whole idea of usury, because she talked about what we were looking for in men, but I didn't hear her talk about what we can pour back into.
That wasn't her job. Okay. That's what my job was.
Okay.
When I started commenting, but you're right, she didn't. But I think the way she presented herself was a little bit on the how do we say this, ghetto side of things.
Yes.
She was unrefined, But I'm saying though, you get at the crux of what she's saying.
Yes.
It's true, because most men do want to be with a woman who needs the things that he's describing in the video.
Yes.
Absolutely. So it's all good,
Okay.
right?
Okay, so what say you, Josh?
Me say, I'm just trying to figure out I understand the context of the conversation, but just wondering what were the exact words and what.
Oh, yeah, it's
what
hard to
she said.
describe.
She said that women use men.
I
And she
got that
said that
part.
we use men to be a provider, a protector.
She went down the list,
Yeah.
but her main thing was she was saying that all women use men. That's right. And she just was going in on this whole thing about women using men. And it was actually kind of a negative presentation.
Yeah, it was a
of
negative
It wasn't,
connotation.
it wasn't refined. It wasn't positive. But I just broke down the content and what she was saying. And from a man's perspective, one who wants to provide these things for a woman, like my wife, for example, it's very important that I take care of her, that I protect her, and all these different things.
But let me just say, that's something that you wish to do for your wife. But for those of us who I've never had, aside from my father, I have not had a protector. So I don't even know how to look for that in a relationship. I'm so
Really?
used to doing it myself and providing for myself.
But I talk about that on my podcast.
yeah.
Is that I think, I already told you what men should look for. Women, I believe, if I were a single woman out there, I would try to be found by a man whose purpose I identify with.
Yes.
Who's someone whose life that I can add value to, someone who I can be a helpmeet for, which is
Yes.
very, very un-2024. It's a more traditional biblical approach to marriage, which whether you believe in the Bible or not, I think it still is a model that we still adhere to, whether we acknowledge that.
Yes.
So if I were a woman, I would be looking for a man who, let's say, for example, let's say you find an actor. Let's say the actor wasn't doing that well. Let's say he wasn't making a lot of money at the time. I can relate to this. I'm talking about myself.
I think so.
All right, so, okay, you meet this guy.
Yes.
And when you see his work and you see his heart and his drive, you say, my goodness, he's better than Denzel Washington. He may not be. Doesn't matter. But to you, he's better than Denzel Washington. And you see a way that you can make that path for him happen.
Yes.
And he loves you and he respects you and he wants to cover you and he wants to protect you and all of those things. That's your husband. He may not make as much money as you make right now. And this is where a lot of women get a little bit.
No, I'm with you on that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to tell you to go out and find some guy that makes a whole lot of money less than you.
Right.
I'm saying that this is the template for a successful marriage because this is a man who you automatically respect because of how you are connected to his heart and purpose.
Yes. Absolutely.
So that's what, if I were a woman, what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You look.
What does the woman say?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, from what he just said, definitely, I do agree. Okay, let me shift back a little bit. I wrote a book called What Your Mama Never Knew About Men. And my perspective of this whole relationship thing, some people get so tired of relationship talking that they're like, I'm done. I don't care, because sometimes it could be unnecessarily hard.
Right.
For the woman, it depends on what am I looking for at this particular time in my life when you run across this man. Some women just want someone to do. Some women want the serious relationship. So if you do want the serious relationship, the way I was raised, the man does exactly what he was saying. They not just take care of you from everything on the outside, but they cover you emotionally too. And a lot of times we lack that, Sometimes men just don't have the bandwidth for that. But I do agree. I want somebody who I can talk to, somebody who I can have fun with, somebody who protects me, somebody who we connect with each other, you know? Like for us, we had no idea we were coming together to build something.
So how did you guys meet?
You want to go back? Did I kind of answer your question? I was on my way there.
I was about to jump in.
Okay,
but,
sorry,
we'll still bring
she
it back.
But what she
No, go
described,
ahead.
though, in terms of before we get into how we met,
Yes.
what I described to you guys just then, she did certain things that informed me that she really got me in
Okay.
terms of she could really help.
Okay.
Because otherwise, I might as well stay single, you know? And,
But I'm gonna tell you, I was at a point though, when we first started dating, we were just like, been through this before. He'd been married twice, I've been married twice, real like, yeah, we're done with that.
Oh wow. Okay.
We're done with that.
Well,
I, don't want that
Question,
anymore.
we're going to get into that, but
Sure is.
what, from your perspective, don't help, from your perspective only, why do you feel that men don't have the bandwidth? It's important. There's no wrong answer, but I just genuinely want to know.
I'm not making that as a general statement for men. All men.
Oh, I don't take it. I'm not one of those.
There's
Because
there's always somebody
no.
who
Well,
doesn't fit that.
Well, we not on that here because
Yeah.
to be honest with you, it's fair to say majority in many situations. So it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Like there, because I've heard many women say that.
Yeah.
And I'm not offended by it. I just wanted to hear what your perspective was, being that you're a more seasoned woman.
Well, the bandwidth to what were you asking me? Men don't have the bandwidth.
Because you made the comment, you said men don't have the bandwidth in regards to emotions.
Connecting
and
to us emotionally, you
Exactly.
mean.
So I just wanted to hear.
Because we are emotional creatures. Sometimes too much. Okay, we're women. We're nurturers. It almost breaks down to the same reason why men can't have babies. You weren't built that way. There's a pain and there's a strength that women have that I really feel like men won't understand. I don't think you can ever understand it. Not that you can't be with us and get along with us and love us and, be with us. But there's like an innate part of a woman's soul. I think a man may want to just be there instead of trying to help us. Sometimes we need you to just listen. We need you to fix everything. And sometimes we need you to just connect with us. Like if there's something, let's say I have a health issue and I've, told you what I deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Some men will be like, okay, well, she can't eat this or she can't do that. But that's it. You don't, some men just don't dig deeper to see what can I really help her with? What can I really, how can I, okay, I can understand. Instead of, jumping to she's not doing this or she's not doing that. Okay, I understand what's going on.
We don't get that tutelage from our women though?
We don't get the what?
The tutelage, like that type of, we're being taught certain things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then on the other side of it, it's almost like if we don't do X, Y, and Z, you're not man enough. So
About
then
that
when
whole
we,
man enough thing. To me, that's a generational thing.
it might be, but I've heard
I'm sure you
my
have.
grandparents, my mama, like I've heard those types of comments that are made because then it falls into the traditional box,
Exactly.
right? Which is your generation. So that's why I'm asking, and it's a great conversation because trying to figure out where the balance is. I personally think, just me, just because we may not all, but just because men, for the most part, can articulate in a way that a woman feels like she's understood does not mean that we can't have a side to being a good nurturer or being somebody who is emotionally or mentally understanding. That doesn't mean we're not capable, because we're also very emotionally led. We're dying because of it. We're in jail because of it.
That's true.
So it's there.
No, I totally
It's
agree
just
with
how
that.
we're tapping into it.
Yeah,
That is the disconnect.
I get that. I totally get that. And part of the disconnect too is the woman's heart too.
Fair.
I get that. No, I
Sure.
totally get that, because it's so, this whole thing, like relationships, is so it's really yin and yang.
It is.
So yin and yang, and that balance, that masculine and that feminine. The good part about it, and also the bad part about it, is we have both masculine and feminine traits. You've got masculine and feminine, although yours is mostly masculine. I've got masculine and feminine. Mine is mostly feminine. When you walk in your masculine and I walk in my feminine, there should be a yin and yang that we can come to a balance with.
Correct.
But most of the time, you're way over there in that masculine, and I'm way over here in my masculine. And see, that's a clash.
Can I ask a question here that might, because, being the pragmatist that I am, I think that a lot of these issues can be reduced by communication. Honest, thoughtful communication about where we are on a particular day and a particular moment. Because sometimes I do believe, and I think you kind of touched on this, that men are put in a position where we know things, or we should know things we don't know, because we just don't know. And depending upon the maturity of the man, the response to what we don't know might be destructive and not received in a way that's productive to the relationship, to our wives. But that is the journey.
Yeah.
That's what the journey's about. You see, no one comes into a marriage perfect, fully evolved. You have to create and build that thing over time. And when you talk to people who've been married for a long time, I've learned that we've all go through the same things. And the people who are divorced are the ones who quit. And I'm just extracting abuse and things that are crazy and, catastrophic. Money issues, sex issues. I don't love him or her anymore. Most people who've been married for a long time have gone through all of those things, but they stay together, they fight for each other, and they communicate.
Yeah,
That's the
communication totally is
It's totally the key. Everything you guys are saying, though, are real. I mean, that is so real. And when you talk to other people who are married in long-term relationships, you'll find, in a general sense, all go through the same things.
So I know Chanel has a question that we'll dive into
Okay.
when we get back. Relationships matter.
Relationships matter.
Welcome back to Relationships Matter. So, Carl and LaTanya, you said we have 6 marriages between the both of you, right?
That's his math.
I mean, but it's 6. It's 6. It's 3 and 3.
Math is good. It's
Yeah,
3 and 3.
3 and
It's
3.
6. That's my teacher taught me that.
I guess because I look at this, because we're still married right
Yeah,
now.
but you have the current. Up
Yeah.
to the current.
Right.
Yeah.
What are some of the lessons that you learned about yourself in each marriage and how you show up in relationships?
You want to go?
No, you can go.
I have learned that if you don't show up as your authentic self from the beginning,
Yes.
and then you slowly change into your authentic self near some other part or time,
Where you going with it?
you put the other person at a distinct advantage because they don't know who they're dealing with.
Right.
Yeah.
So it changes your whole dynamic, changes everything. And so while you are growing and maturing, and that's what that whole thing is, we grew apart, is because a lot of times, of course, we know the representative shows up, but then a lot of times you don't know who you
yeah,
are.
you never knew each other either.
You don't know who you are. So then when you finally decide, okay, I'm this, and that other person fell in love with that other you,
Wow.
and you can't reconcile the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's one thing I've learned from previous, because I was too young for my first one. I was way too young.
How old were you?
20.
What's wrong with that?
I didn't know who I was.
Is that not a good thing, though? Can it not be viewed as a good thing? Because sometimes it may be problematic. I love playing devil's advocate. So it might be problematic, right? If you get it's a different perspective. I'm 41, and being where I am now, right? Typically people who are around my age, you compare,
Right.
which could be the thief. So we had a younger couple here 5 months ago. Beautiful couple. They got together, got married early. Still no kids. They're not even 30 yet, but they've been together for 9 years total.
Yeah.
And that was like my question for them, because for one, salute to them, Darrell and his queen, like salute to them, because they were putting in the work and all of the things that they talked about. You know, they sounded like some old soul folks, because they get to grow together as they get old and learn. And because at the end of the day, right, no matter how you splice it, whether you're going backwards or forwards, like there takes a level of work and a level of patience, grace, and understanding in order to make anything work. And
That's true.
and that's why I was wondering, because typically we unite those ideas about relationship, like, well, I've said it in mine too. My first marriage, I got married at 23, 24 or something like that. And it's like, yeah, I was too young, didn't know myself, but there's an understanding of hard work. There's an understanding of what it takes to actually go through and grow through something with a person. So that's why I wanted to get your perspective on what you said.
Well, it takes two.
Yeah, for sure.
So if I've found that I've grown and decided or learned this about myself, if the other person wants to hold me back to the one I was not, instead of grow with me, and we grow with each other, then no, that's a lose-lose situation.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's what mine was.
Latanya said something that made me want to pivot to your question from my side of it in one aspect. So the whole thing about love, which is wonderful. You know, love is wonderful, but I think that in society today, we misunderstand what real love is. Love is behavioral. It's responding to, it's volitional. It's not, how I feel. And so a lot of people, in the case of your young couple, I think what they understand is the commitment that's required of a married couple, more so than how I'm feeling in the moment. And to your point about not knowing yourself, if you have the level of commitment that's necessary to stay in a marriage, which is what is required of us when we enter into this covenant, then you can make it, literally.
That's true.
Because I don't think people understand, like, there might be some days you wake up and somebody doesn't like somebody.
Right,
You still love
exactly.
them.
Yeah.
But the problem is that people are in a relationship now, if they don't like somebody, that also equates to not loving them. So they're like, I'm out.
Yep.
And they don't understand that that's not hand in hand. Like, that's a separate situation. You're just not feeling that person at the time. Like, there's a thing that happened.
Right.
It doesn't mean you just fold everything all together. But
Exactly.
that was a good question.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the first two marriages, if you will.
The first two.
Yeah, like what were some of the more significant, what were your takeaways?
Ooh.
Oh boy.
Oh. Well, I don't. Okay, so she went first. So my first marriage lasted for 14 years.
Okay.
How old were you when you
I
got
was
married?
27.
Okay.
And we had a lot in common. We both were in the entertainment area. She's a singer and an actor and a dancer, and I'm an actor. But she also had a law degree. She's a lawyer. And we just didn't click in the romantic space. I mean, she would fantasize about other dudes and all of this stuff. And, I'm not trying to put her down. I mean,
And tell you about it though.
Well, that's a whole nother game. I found out
Okay.
because I read her journal.
Oh.
The breath came out of the room. I was a young man then, insecure, wondering why my wife doesn't want me.
Why is that insecure though?
Well, you know, read her journal. I mean, you know, it's supposed to be a private space. You see what happened
Yeah,
with
you're
her?
not supposed to do that.
You know,
I
so
hear
but
you,
it-
but
That's where innermost
but
thought.
here's a. I don't want to skip this point. When it comes to a woman and her behavior, it's like it's acceptable. But when a man does something, it's like, well, you ain't supposed to do that.
Yep.
But she could have left. She could have been like, listen, big dog, I'm not feeling the way you laying that pipe. I'm not feeling the way I'm not feeling the way you kissing me or hugging
All
me.
that.
She
Yeah.
could have said that.
Yeah.
But
she
there
did
was
say it.
something that
She said
made-
it.
She did?
Yeah.
She came to you and said that.
Was it before or after you read the journal?
I'm trying to remember the order. It's been a few years.
That
But
matters.
no, she let
Yeah.
me know. She
Matters.
let me know.
It does.
But then here's the thing: there was no real way for that she could find to instruct me on what she needed. It was just fait accompli. And so there were guys, and I'm not saying that she hadn't. I don't think she did, but she wrote about
Do
it.
you think she loves you?
I don't know. I think so. I mean, we had 2 kids together and all that. And, I mean, listen.
That's why I'm glad y'all are here.
I can't speak for her. I think she did because after we broke up, some things that occurred after that. So I do think she did. I just think that there was a disconnect between she and I. She did not know how to deal with me. And same with me and her, because as a result, I ended up stepping out on her. I had affairs. So when I'm sorry, what I do?
You said, I caught that. Like, you didn't say it.
And let me tell you, and this was so wrong of me. Shouldn't have done this. I'm looking at the camera, real clear. It made it worse.
Mm-hmm.
But my motivation in doing it was because when I would go outside the marriage, the women were like, "Whoa, you are amazing!"
Oh wow.
Hold on. So,
And it's like, "Oh, I'm amazing. Let's do it again."
So that's
I mean,
why
literally.
I'm trying to understand the order of the timeline.
Yes.
Were you faithful before you read the journal?
Yeah, I don't remember the order because I read the journals pretty early, and some of the dysfunction was happening before I read the journals. In terms, I knew what was going on.
But you was faithful.
Yes.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
So
yes.
you read the journal,
Yes.
felt some type of way,
Yes.
and you said, I'm finna pipe something down.
Wow.
Gosh.
John, thank you for putting it that way.
This my generation.
Yeah, I know. I feel you, though, man.
I'm with you because I'm feeling you, but at the same time,
You keeping it real.
I'm
You
trying
keeping it real.
because
I hear you.
You like my UN translator. I appreciate that.
because me and her got into a heavy back and forth. Might have been the 3rd episode we did, and I was the conversation of transparency came up, and I was like, "How is it, that people can't be themselves in a relationship?"
Right.
And she was like, "Well, I don't know about be yourself," and I'm like, "Well, how?" Right? You got people having sex.
Yeah.
You'll shower with a person. You'll do all of these things, but you won't be honest with a person.
Right.
And that moment just made me think of that because I'm asking you these things. Yeah, we made light of it, but you spoke of something earlier about the power of communication.
Yes.
And how important transparent communication is. And if we're not willing to have it, these are the things that are breaking relationships. And it's not just that, but it's also breaking the next generation because who's to say what your kids saw?
Yeah,
what they
I got kids,
understood.
I got to have kids with them, and
Right?
it
And
damaged them, my children.
But when
Sure,
we
in
say
my
we
way.
love a person, I need to be able to come to her and say, listen, this is really important for me. This is how I would like to be loved, touched, kissed, something.
Yeah.
Because if typically our queens ain't got no problem saying, big dog, you ain't doing X, Y, and Z the way that I need for you to do it. You not even hike that leg up. I need you to prop that thing this way, something. And but I'm just saying, do you have a problem being open and honest?
No,
for the
not-
most part, right? You'll come out and say, so I'm just asking.
And the thing about that situation, I told her that I was having the affairs. I ended up telling her about it.
Right.
She didn't learn or catch me. I told her,
Respect.
and that wasn't fun.
So I have a question.
Yeah. So, but I at the time, and it was wrong because the outcome of it really damaged the marriage even worse.
Gotcha.
But I was looking for,
Valid.
you know, what you just
Validation.
said? Validation.
Validation.
Because I definitely got it. I mean, in a big way.
But
Yeah,
before you got married,
Mm-hmm.
though, and it goes to this question, our card game. Define sexual compatibility in a relationship. Like, were you guys sexually compatible
Before?
you got married and then things fell off? Or what happened? Because it had to be good at some point, unless you didn't engage in premarital sex and you waited till you got married, and that's a whole nother
Yeah.
topic.
The way that head came out of that
I
position.
know.
You know,
that thing
you know,
spoke volumes to me.
you know,
Whenever
we
she-
can do a whole. This
Yeah.
will take a whole episode. But basically, I didn't feel that we were incompatible before.
Okay.
But it could have been because I wasn't really paying attention. But also, I think that she had some issues in my mind that had to do with commitment. Like, you know, once you're with a man, then it's a whole nother different thing that happens with her ability to be able to receive you in that way. And that's me just psychoanalyzing it because of some things that occurred after. We broke up, we almost remarried again, and it was great. And then it just fell apart. So, but then we were together, it was weird. It was, but that's how it happened in the first marriage.
Definitely takes a lot more than that to keep you together.
And then the other thing too, and this is my take, because you know the 3 marriages, you know, were pretty lengthy. This is going on our 10 years.
Okay.
But the second marriage was 11 years, 14 years the first one. I think that physical compatibility, to the point of your question there, I think once you're in it for a while, it takes a different life. Even though you may have great compatibility in year 1 and 2 and 3, once life creeps in there, that's really the decider in most cases. That's why people who get married and have great sex and they're divorced after 4 years. That's how it happens. So the question then, how do you keep that fire alive through those times?
Yes.
Because I think for forbearance, forgiveness, being able to truly forgive from your heart, to restore that person, to get back to that place where, you know, you had great fun and great, you know, enjoyment is more the key from a psychological standpoint than a physical one. But then some people have been damaged somewhere along the line with, you know, abuse or whatever. And then to your point, we were talking earlier about bringing baggage into the relationship. You know, we never really had a talk about that, and she had some issues there as well. So it was a lot going on. And then I didn't handle her. In my mind, with the issues that she had, I would have been better served just to love her through that, rather than taking it personally and going out of the marriage. And even though it was a level of just, you know, abuse from my part, you know, you're just this, you're not that, you know, there was something else going on with her that wasn't personal. And I think that I could have been more mature in how I handled her, which is really what love is. It behaves and responds to the issues that covers that brokenness that she needed from me.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right, because when you do say, you know, I need this, I need that, and you're not doing it or whatever, that person's ego, you'll find out eventually
Right.
if that ego can handle that or no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So what were your takeaways in your first 2 marriages?
Well, I gave
We're
you
going to
one.
pause there.
Oh,
When we get back, relationships matter.
Relationships matter.
Welcome back to Relationships Matter. So before we went to break, I wanted to hear what were your takeaways. I know we talked about your first marriage. You were 20, you were married for 4 years.
4 years.
So the second marriage was 16 years.
Yeah.
So what was your takeaway from that
So
one?
that was the marriage where my 2 kids came from.
Okay.
And actually 2 bonus kids, because he had 2 kids before we got married.
And how was that? You can include that in your response.
Oh, girl. Okay, that's another show. Yeah, blending and all that's another show. No, actually, this one was simpler than that first one as far as coming to an end. This number 2 was toxic. It was toxic, and oh boy, it taught me how to really be true to myself and take care of myself, because I took a lot. And it's like I didn't realize people were looking at me like, wait, why are you taking all this? To the point where when we finally, I said, I've had enough, everybody's like, finally? Seriously, because number one, I did not want to raise kids on my own.
Yeah.
That was the main thing, I think, keeping me in it. It was. And so I was quick to forgive, which I don't think that's a horrible thing, but I probably shouldn't have. But I did.
Why?
Why what?
Why do you think you shouldn't be quick to forgive?
Because in this case, now I'm not talking about other people and other situations where, this is just me. I'm talking about me. Okay? But in my case, I was cheated on, really pushed to the back of the marriage. I was like not important enough to, or should I say, I wasn't considered. I was married to somebody who was very immature. Immature to the point where, I'll just give you one quick example. I'm home, wasn't feeling well, kind of new baby, and he's going to drive off to another state out of town to hang with friends, driving with a female.
So
that's kind of stuff, Now that was like, made me kind of wake up a little bit, to the point where he felt, it happened to the point, it progressed to get to that point, to the stage where like, oh, it's okay, she's all right, I'm going. And then when I'm like, wait, what?
And he told you he was doing this.
Yeah.
but why do you feel that the forgiving part, why you shouldn't be able to easily forgive? I know that there's damage there, there's hurt. But still, why not be able to easily forgive?
Because the offense.
I'm going somewhere with it. That's what I'm asking.
Oh, let's see. When I look back at it,
Right.
I did it just to get by. So it wasn't forgiveness all the way to my soul. It was a surface forgiveness, so I could just keep going by.
Understood.
You get that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I wanted to use that because I feel like that's an area where we all can be better at. Right? We allow people to control us.
Yeah.
And then we use our pain as a way of direction. And that direction is leading us into a crash course. And what we fail to realize is you can still forgive someone easily, but the next part is what's important. We skip over the next part, which is, what's my decision? So we get stuck into, well, I can't forgive because if I forgive, that's going to make me put my guard down and all of that. No, you can still protect yourself. But the important part is healing, because that's also a part of better decision making.
Right.
True.
And the list goes on and on and on. Because what happened was you stayed stuck, which caused you a lot of damage.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then how long did it take for you to, or are you still kind of going through a little bit of that? Or are you good
How
now?
long did it take for me to
kind of like get over that? Because that's 16 years and y'all been together for 10 or 11.
Almost 10.
Almost 10.
Oh, well, back then?
Right, before, you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
because typically people, you're going to bring that.
Yeah.
And now you're getting older. See, that's the other part of it too. So
Yeah.
we're getting older. We're not forgiving. We're being stuck in our ways.
Yeah.
I'm open to love and,
But I allowed that.
Okay.
See? I have to go back and look at like I say, it always takes two to tango.
absolutely.
And so that was me. He was getting away with everything that he just could get away with, that I allowed. Because a lot of other women I know, oh no, it wasn't. He was getting away with it because I allowed it. So what I had to do when all of that was over is forgive myself.
Amen.
I had to get to the point where I forgave myself. And trust me, I'm gonna tell you something. I have done so much work. we are friends to this day.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So
We
I'm trying to
co-parent.
get to that part and
Yeah.
how we can get to that piece of it quicker. Because it'll stop a lot of the pain and the harm that's going on from both sides.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
that's
why I
true.
was asking you that, to hear from both of you all.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, what does that piece look like?
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. You can only go as far as your maturity will take you.
Respect. Okay.
And so it caused me to mature quickly when I finally, I'm serious, it's like you walk into a room knowing you turn on a light switch. I finally turned the switch on. Now, I don't remember, God, it was so long ago now, I just don't remember what it was, but my health suffered.
Got you.
That could have been, you know, to the point where my health started to, like, okay, this is stress, and now I got to deal with this. So I really finally was like, yeah. But then I'm telling you something, even after that, I still gave it another shot. Still gave it another shot because I didn't want to raise kids on my own. And women do it all the time.
No, for sure.
Single mothers, they do it all the time. I just didn't want to do it.
What's your advice for co-parents? I've never had a chance to ask. Yeah, like I've never.
Co-parenting?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what's your
You mean
advice?
blended family, co-parenting?
Yeah, blended families, co-parenting. Like, what is what is something that is a good takeaway for people that are in that position right now?
Okay, so I'm going to look at it as a point of two parents, biological parents, splitting up. Okay, because then I had that situation, and I had two kids coming in that were there before me, you know, that I had to become, they became my bonus kids. So I'm going to do the part about the biological co-parent part. After we split, I do not believe in keeping the father from their kids. I do not, unless there's some kind of physical danger. Kids need their father, period. And I, though believe he was very insecure and very immature, I don't think he would have hurt them. So no, I pushed them to spend time with him. And anytime he had something going on that they didn't like, I'm like, look, you are ruining your relationship with your kids, not me. See, I made sure there was no foul play coming from my end. I was not telling them, even though they saw it for themselves. I'm like, yeah, but he's your dad. Mom, he's this, he's that. Yeah, but he's your dad.
And let me just speak on this. I know this brother. He's a nice guy. We had a bit of a dust up in the,
Yeah,
in the
one
beginning.
time in the
Had to
beginning.
straighten him out in the beginning, just a little bit. Had to
Yeah.
tighten him up. But after that, we get along fine.
Yeah,
He's a good-hearted guy who loves his kids.
yeah.
And there's even a text thread that I'm included on. It's called Blended. He named it that. And he sends texts and pictures and stuff. And I look at him, I respond. Because he and I have a relationship. I think that's how
they get along fine.
how it should be. Unfortunately, a lot of people have a hard time with that. They want to discard when the marriage is over and there's children involved.
Yeah.
To the point of my second marriage. So she had a daughter who, when I married her, I said, this is going to be my daughter, all right? And I had two children from my first marriage. And fast forward, when the marriage went south, for whatever her reasons were, but we hadn't gotten into that, she dumped my children. My daughter, who's now 37 years old, I remember her asking me, she said, Dad, why did she unfriend me from social media? What did I do? My daughter asked me that. My daughter has a mother. My daughter's mother, my ex, my first marriage, they have a great relationship with their mother. They have a mother. But she had positioned herself, my second wife, as their bonus mother.
Yeah.
And she just totally to this day, has never talked to my kids again. We've been split up now for 11 years. My daughter's doing amazing. Both my kids are doing amazing things. And my daughter just had a baby. She's never talked to her. She never tried to contact her. And, it's not a big deal, I guess. But the point is, your question about blending families, I wish I would have known before I married this lady that this would be the outcome.
I think it
Because
points
it's one of the biggest regrets of my life.
it points to the character of the person, though.
It does.
How it ended. Talk a little bit about how that marriage ended, the second one.
Well, the second one, okay, I'm an actor. Everyone knows that acting is a little bit up and down.
Yes.
When I first met her, I was working for Variety, the trade paper. I was an account manager for them, and I lost the job almost after we first started dating. And so I couldn't find a job, and I started working as an actor again. I started getting jobs and doing other things. And we were dating, and she wanted to get married, and I said, I don't think we should get married. I need to wait until I get my money gets right. She really wanted to do it, and my bad. I actually did a blog on this, or a podcast on this. I allowed her to push the date up to the marriage for the wedding when I knew the money wasn't right for me. Even though I was making more money than she was at the time, acting and doing the other things I was doing, I didn't think it was right. I didn't feel good about it, but I allowed that to happen. So I did that. A few years into the marriage, it's crazy to me to be measuring how much money one makes over the other one, but some people are just there. It's crazy. For the first 4 or 5 years, despite the fact that she had the job, the 9 to 5, I was out earning her. But then after about the 5th year, it began to go down a little bit and down. But I always worked, was always hustling, was never zero. I always worked. She complained about the money for years, degraded me, put me down, said I wasn't a real man because I wasn't taking care of business, all this kind of craziness. And this went on for years, and it devolved into a very toxic situation. We would fight like you would not believe. I would not always respond negatively when she would say these things, but it would take me down into this place of darkness. And so we'd get into fights. I would call her all kinds, and I would call her all kinds out of her name. Ooh. I was
back.
oh.
Not with his hands, but with his mouth.
And that was really when it really went bad, because she was, he's out here abusing me. I'm like, but when you call me a low down dickless wonder, and you broke ass nigga, what was that? That wasn't abuse? Hello? Anyway, so we broke up, and you asked me how we broke up. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So, but then it wasn't, but she didn't leave me before I helped her start a business. So she had this business she wanted to start after we moved to Palmdale, California. And I was a little reticent about it because I didn't know anything about it, but it was her vision. So I helped her create this business, went to classes, worked in group homes that she didn't want to work in, and gave her the hours, all of that stuff, right? Then she set up a corporation with her brother, left me off of it.
Wow.
She set this whole thing up. By the time it got to the point when the businesses were going and she just got tired of it, she said, I'm done. I got into this big fight with her. I said some things to her. I put it in one of my episodes of my show, as a matter of fact.
You did.
It was
I have to go
over.
find that show.
It was over. And when that happened, it just turned into a real negative thing. And I just didn't understand that, because I felt that I put what I could put into it, and it just fell flat. And I'm surprised that I even married again after that. I was so, it really hurt.
Yeah.
So that's a great segue, and that was a great question. As we wrap, I think this is something extremely powerful. From both of your perspectives, 3 marriages, being on your 3rd marriage each. What does love look like now versus how it did prior to? And y'all are both in a very healthy marriage. You've gone through a lot. You've seen a lot. Y'all have talked about you've talked about a lot of different things. Starting with you, what does love look like now? Because as you're answering, I also want you to envision me being 18-year-old me now, and how you can help me find true love one day. And when it's your turn, envision 18-year-old Chanel and how it can be beneficial to her and how she can find true love whenever that time comes. So I'm gonna let y'all close this out. Thank y'all, by the way, for being here and
You guys
blessing
have
us
been
with your
amazing. You've been
presence.
amazing. I would say to get clarity on who you are to the best of your ability, what you want to do with your life, what you're passionate about, and then pursue it with reckless abandon. And if you want to find love, and see, I think you're asking me two different things. Let me just say it like this.
He said, what does it look like now?
Okay, because he asked about 18-year-old self. So that's
No, I said to answer it as if you're helping me as my 18-year-old self, in which I want to one day look
But I
for
think
love.
that's relatable.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was saying, but I'm trying to pivot to the whole love part. So what it looks like to me now, though, is just a sea of forgiveness, being able to forgive and work through anything short of abuse or something's nutty, just crazy abuse, physical abuse or something like that. Just being in it for the long haul. For an 18-year-old, I don't know how an 18-year-old would be ready for that, although some would be 18, 20, 21.
It's like a seed, right? When you're raising your kids and you're preparing them for adulthood. That's all.
Yeah.
Not that I'm gonna find me a young little
Jump out here and find
19-year-old,
somebody.
but
Yeah.
it's like I'm preparing myself. I have this window from 18 to 24 where I can really get to know myself. Something can happen in the midst of all of that. That's all.
Yeah, and I
Hopefully
think
that helps
that's
better.
really important because I think
Yeah.
that for a man, you know, your purpose and your clarity of who you are is what's going to attract the woman you need
There we go.
that God has for you.
Amen.
I really believe that. And I wasn't clear,
Amen.
to be honest with you, because I wasn't clear, or I had a sense about it, but I would allow the women that I chose to come in and throw me off my game. By the time I got to her, there's no game. You're not gonna throw me off my game. No woman can ever throw me off my game. You're
That's
coming
good.
into this world. You want to live with the world I'm in, but if you don't want to live with the world that I'm in, you got to go. I think that it's really important for men to see it that way.
Yeah, it
And so I
is.
would tell my 18-year-old self, or you, that don't, you know, it's good to want to take care of a woman and to see her as the queen that she is, but she should never take you off your game. Under no circumstances should she have you compromising and second thinking what you're called to earth to do, your gift to the world. No one should do that. And sometimes some women who have other ambitions and goals, they come in to they want to do their own thing. They have an agenda. You got to spot that agenda, and you only spot it by knowing what your agenda is. And the minute that comes in to your life, because of my second wife, I should have known really from about, I don't know, not the second date, but pretty much into it, that because I saw all the signs. The signs were all there. But because I was wobbly, you know, I didn't adhere to them, and I suffered.
That's
for that.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I think
Thank
we
you.
always get signs,
Yeah.
whether we heed them or not. That's on us, because if you don't pay attention, you do pay for it later.
Yeah.
I think we both had reached an age, like what we were saying when we were dating, like, oh, I'm not doing this again, not doing this again. And then we found ourselves just together every day for a long time. I was just like, what are we doing? You know?
And she was so supportive of me.
He was like,
I'd
we
never
might
seen
as
it
well
before.
just
Yeah.
do it. You know? We're like, yeah, you're right. You know? And I think once you reach a certain age, really, you're at a point where you're just like, do I want a permanent boyfriend? You know, or let's just turn this into something. Well, what I did see was how I could help him. So he had a voice. Twice Married Brother was already there. But he had no memes, he had no, social media was slowly coming and changing. So I did that for him.
She did a lot more than that, actually. But
I taught him how to edit on iMovie, stuff like that.
My series I did would not have happened without her because of how she pushed me to do my own show. It was her.
Yeah, because we sabotage ourselves with procrastination.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I had to push him.
Yeah.
And but I saw what he could be. And I saw what he could do. But sometimes, people don't see it themselves after what you've been through, And so I knew what I was capable of, and I was having fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just, when we finally, said, oh, well, you would do this. And he was good to my kids. And we were in a place where we were like, okay, we'll go ahead and join this together. We didn't realize, though, how much of a team and how much we were creating together, because it takes a whole lot more than love when you marry and you're mature and you have a whole lot of things going on. It takes a whole lot more than love. And I learned from him the way a man looked at things. And I was like, huh.
Yeah.
So when I wrote my book, which your mama never knew about men, I realized, how we always hear that saying, the man's the head, but we're the neck, when we turn that head. That is so true. Because there were a lot of things that I knew I could suggest and do and play that Jedi mind trick. You know what, you should do this. To make him think he was thinking it himself. And I didn't need to be right. I didn't need to take the credit for it. He just needed to act. But sometimes he didn't know how to pull the trigger.
That's so good.
And she makes me look so good. I don't know. Sorry to interrupt, honey. She steals my friends, and I say that lovingly. She just makes me look so good. People give me so much credit for being Carl Gilliard. Not because I'm Carl Gilliard, but because of her. I'm just telling you. And that is something through the other marriages that I never really experienced before. And there's no slam on them because I chose them, right? But she makes me look, I could just go on and on. I had one dude in LA write me on social media, and he said to me, he's a friend, but he's not someone I talk to all the time. He said, man, if you lose her, I'm gonna come and kick your ass. I'm like, dang, really?
But the thing is, too, the one other thing that I realized, because he was so vocal in what his needs were, is a lot of times we women, we want a relationship. And then we want to be married, but we don't know how to be a wife. And I learned by watching my mother and everything she went through, my aunts, my cousins, and everything. A lot of times we just don't know because we weren't taught, just the simple things sometimes what a man wants to do. I'm gonna walk, and this is old fashioned, I know, walk down the street, I'm like, why are you being always pushing me to the other side of the sidewalk? And then my uncle was like, no, if a car comes or whatever, and you're gonna protect the woman.
Yeah, we got to jump out of that car.
Like that.
Get her leg broke.
Opening the car door. I'm surrounded by women like, I can open my own car door. I don't need you to do that. So what good is he for then in your life?
Right.
Let him do it. You don't have to be in control. Now, in corporate America, you might have to wear that pantsuit and be a boss and all like that. But when you come home, you got to learn how to turn all that stuff off.
That's good.
And so that is what, I have picked up. Now, we still argue. We can have some pick up, throw them down. We can. But I remember one time it got so bad, and I was like, what do we do? I had to just shut him up. I took him by the hands, and I looked at him. I said, we on the same team.
That's so
And it
good.
stopped him right in his tracks. And we did, and we were like, and I was like, because I think you get to a point where you get emotions, climbing. Somebody has to be able to put the brakes on. Because if both of you are like that, yeah, you're headed for serious destruction.
Yeah.
So it's just, like I said, you can only go as far as your maturity takes you. And sometimes as women, we have to unlearn all the stuff that we learned. We do. And learn the temperament of your man. All men are different, you know, we're all different, but yeah, you have to learn the temperament of who you're dealing with.
That's good.
So always, you know, make sure you are doing what you want to do in your life. So you won't be expecting that answer or that validation from anybody else.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's what I learned.
Thank you so much. What I heard, there's a lot that I heard, but let's see how I can sum this up properly. Purpose, vision.
You got it.
And that's a amazing foundation for a beautiful recipe for the proper relationship.
Yeah.
Thank you both for blessing us, because easily can talk another hour
Yeah.
and get this good game that y'all are giving. So many great points. You know, even when you finished it up and talked about how there's a lot of things that aren't being learned.
Yeah.
Even the people who have the proper people that can teach them is still different when you're actually experiencing things for yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, thank you both so much for joining us, being a part of the RM family,
Yeah.
and blessing us with your presence. And God bless y'all
Yes.
for not one, two, but three, like MJ say, being this your third marriage. And,
Yeah. Third time's a
doing
charm.
that good thing. So I think that it's beautiful, man, and that also means that all hope is never lost.
Yeah.
So thank y'all for being an example of that on both sides. And y'all both went through a lot, but thank you for coming.
Thanks for
We
having us.
appreciate
This
y'all
is
so
really
much.
good.
Thank you.
I like this.
We signing out. Relationships matter.
Relationships matter. I need you to understand. Relationships matter.